Science Tea, and I'm coming at you today to talk about volcanoes in an episode I'm calling It's Gonna Blow. So you better strap on your seatbelt because we are going for a ride. Okay, first of all, let's talk about volcanoes. What makes a volcano? Well, the Earth, it's not solid. At the center of it, there's a solid inner core made of iron and nickel. Then, on the outside of that, there's a liquid melted form of iron and nickel. Then we have a huge layer of magma and a thin layer of crust. We call that crust land, okay? So that crust, there are these tectonic plates, and sometimes they move around. Well, if they move around, sometimes that magma can seep out. And when it seeps out, a volcano can form in those areas. Okay, so let's talk about that. So we've got our crust. In this diagram, it shows the crust. And then there's this big pocket of magma. That's called a magma chamber. Okay, it's like a little pocket. It holds it there, kind of like a little bubble. And sometimes as that pressure builds up on the inside, because that magma is constantly moving, well, sometimes it'll cause it to come out. All right, so when it comes out, it will slowly form into a volcano. There's different kinds of volcanoes depending on how fast or how slowly they erupt. All right, and I'll talk about that in just a second. But once it gets built, you'll see that there's this main vent, that main chute that it comes out of. Sometimes there will also be side vents that shoot out. Okay, so not only are you having lava flow off the top, but sometimes it can also shoot out the sides as well. All right, can be pretty dangerous for sure. This point at the top right here, that indentation, that's called the crater. And if it's not actively flowing with lava, it can kind of form into a little crusted area and hold some water into it, be like a little lake or a little pond, okay? And then when the lava starts flowing again, well, of course, it's going to shoot out. You can see on this one, we've got smoke and ash coming out, lava flowing down the side. Okay, so that's the primary makings of a volcano. So I've got a little model of one right here. You can see it's nice and tall. And on the inside here, inside on the back there, I've got a bottle with some baking soda in it. Baking soda with some vinegar, or there's other mixtures you can use as well. Those cause chemical reactions. Okay, so you've got an acid and a base, and they get together and they cause a chemical reaction. That's what we want to see when we make a little volcano, right? We want to see that chemical reaction. So I've added a little bit of water in it. I might need to add a little bit more as we go. We'll play around and see. You can see I've got a couple of side vents coming out as well. And we've got our main vent, and we've got our crater. So in this bottle, I've got my vinegar, got my base, baking soda. I've got my acid vinegar. You're like, that's red vinegar. Yes, it is. I put in some red food coloring and a little bit of dish soap. You don't have to use dish soap, but that really makes it bubble, all right? So, safety first. You can put on some goggles if you like, or why not put on a shield? Safety first. Of course, I've got on my rain jacket as well, okay? Here we go. That in there. You see it building up? You see it building up? And there we go. There we go. And you can just keep doing that. We've got our chemical reaction. Isn't that a lot more fun when it's got the bubbles in it? Okay, and then from this side you can see how it's flowing out over the sides of the volcano. And it was shooting out the sides here as well. So there's a little trickle there. And there's a little trickle on that side. I want to show you how you can make your own. Okay, I'm going to show you a couple of little models that you can make, depending on whether you've got the supplies or just what you want to do with it, okay? So first off, I am going to show you how to make one using a clay. This is a salt clay that you can make, and it's super easy. First of all, I've got a plate. I've got a plastic plate, and I taped a little bottle on it, a little water bottle. Put some masking tape on it. I put some on the bottom and then around the sides just to make it a little bit more stable, okay? Now you set that aside. Mix up some flour and some salt, okay? Pretty simple. Most people have that around. Now, I'm going to tell you, it's going to take a cup of flour, just for one of these. It's going to take a cup of flour. Don't have to be real exact with it. A cup. It's not like we're making cookies, right? You don't have to be that exact with it. So we've got a cup of flour, and then we're going to use a half of a cup of salt. That's a lot of salt, isn't it? Sure is. Okay, so we got, and if you want to make a bigger one, then just remember it's twice as much flour as you're using salt. So right now, I've got 2 parts flour to 1 part salt. I'm just going to stir those together so that they get combined. And now I'm going to put some water in it. And I can't tell you how much water to put in it. You just got to put a little bit at a time, stir it up, see what you got, and then work it like it's clay, like it's Play-Doh. Now you can see I've got me a good dough to work with, all right? Just start forming it around your bottle, okay? And you're going to do that until you've used it all up. This will cover the whole bottle if you're using one of these small water bottles. I made one earlier, and I used that whole bunch of dough. And then I let it dry, and I decided to paint it to make it more look like a volcano. So we can have extinct volcanoes. Extinct means that they are also called dead volcanoes. They have not erupted for a long time, and scientists don't think that they are going to ever erupt again. Those are extinct or dead volcanoes. And then there are dormant volcanoes. Dormant volcanoes are sometimes called sleeping volcanoes. They haven't been erupting for a long time, but the conditions, the location, the stuff that's going on that crust and those plates, it could possibly erupt again. It's sleeping, but it might wake up. And then there's the active volcanoes. The active volcanoes are either erupting right now or they have erupted recently. Those are still called active volcanoes, even though they just did, but they've settled down for now. We are going to make active volcanoes. So we're going to use, this is one way that you can make one. Also, another simple way is you take that plate again, right? Just a plastic plate. And this time I've taken a plastic cup. That's all it is, just a regular plastic cup. And I taped it on same way. A little bit on the bottom, right there in the middle, okay, connecting the cup to the plate. And then just a little bit on the side. And I'm used masking tape for it because I think it sticks to this better than if you use the clear tape, okay? So you've got that on there. And instead of using clay this time, we're just gonna make it super simple and we're gonna use some foil. And then I'm just going to take some scissors, or you can use your fingers. It's foil. It's pretty easy to tear, okay? And I'm just going to push in that foil, all right? Now let's talk about the kinds of volcanoes that we just made here. This one is a shorter one and flat. This one is nice and tall. This is kind of what we think of as a volcano most of the time, I think. And this one is called a composite volcano. Composite volcanoes erupt very rapidly, really fast, and then the lava hardens very quickly as it flows out. So that makes them nice and steep and tall. This one, on the other hand, is called a cinder cone. Cinder, it's got a lot of ash in it. Okay, remember on this diagram we've got the smoke and the ash coming out? Well, that ash, it's a slow erupting volcano, and the ash just kind of builds up. So it's nice and fluffy, right? It's fluffier than the composite one. And so you've got a soft layer and it kind of just packs down and it flows out. These erode sometimes as well because of that. Okay, so we've got 2 kinds of volcanoes that we're going to work with here, but the same process. Okay, so I'm going to take my baking soda and I'm going to use a 1/4 of a cup baking soda. And I'll put it in this one. I'll take a 1/4 cup baking soda and I'm going to put it in my other one. It's going to be a little bit more difficult though because look at the shape, right? So if you've got a funnel, stick your funnel in there and slowly pour it in. You might need a stick or I'm using a chopstick, or you could use a skewer or something to help it get down in there. Okay? Now, you can do one of two things here. You can either, if you want it to be red like lava, you can add your food coloring right to that, just a few drops. A few drops in there, a few drops in there. Little bit of dish soap because we want some bubbles. Maybe a little bit of water to help it mix up, not too much. You don't want to make it so that the vinegar can't do its thing. Okay, stir it up a little bit. Stir this one up a little bit. See how that's going to work. Okay, and then pour in your vinegar, about 1/3 of a cup of vinegar. Or if you don't want to do this with the food coloring and the soap, you can, and with the vinegar, you can mix it up like I did with the other one. Had the vinegar in it, put the soap in it, put the red food coloring in it, and then I just squirted it in. Either way. So let's start with, which one do we want to start with? Let's start with this one. Remember, this is going to happen pretty quickly, so you got to pour it pretty fast. And there we go. The red is starting to come out a little bit. Could have used a little bit more of that red food coloring in there. See how it's flowing? Flowing. It is still coming. Those chemical reactions are still happening. Okay, now if you're making this salt dough in and you want to make it so that you can use it over and over again, it'd be a good idea to go ahead and dump it out as soon as possible and let that dry out. That way the salt dough won't start getting all yucky and sticky, okay? So that would be a good way to keep it and just do it over and over and over again. Let's try it with our Cinder Cone flattened model. Now, since that one really could have used a little bit more food coloring, I'm going to go ahead and stick some more in this one. Just stick some more food coloring, right? And then remember, you don't have to have that. That's just for effect. Let's see how this one compares. Oh, there we go. Nice red flow. You see how it's flowing down differently? That's a really good one. Nice flowing, and it gives you, with that bigger opening, it gives you more time to pour in the vinegar before it starts coming out. It'd be a good idea to, number one, you better ask your mom first. And number two, if she says, not making a mess in my house, take it outside, okay? Not a big deal. It's still a lot of fun no matter where you're at. Just remember, you're going to have that chemical reaction with your base and your acid. So there's going to be some mess to clean up. How about if we use, I don't know, a carrot, maybe a little chick? How about an Easter egg? Or a bunny? Same thing's going to happen, okay? You have to be super fast though, because now we have to put on a top. Let's explode the little bunny, but not really. We don't want to harm any animals. There's no animals being harmed in the making of this video. Okay, so first I'm going to start with, if you're using one of these, you need to start with your liquid, all right? So I'm going to put some vinegar in here. I don't really care to have red in it this time, but I do want some bubbles. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put my dish soap in there. And I'm going to stir those up a little bit. Don't really have to because it'll take care of it itself in here in just a second. Okay, now I'm going to take the top, the head of my bunny, and I'm going to put some baking soda in it. Now, remember, you gotta be really quick. Gonna move it up for you a little bit because it's gonna pop, right? Don't worry, it'll be all right. And see it building up, see it building up, see it building up. Oh, it's coming. It's coming. It's not coming very fast. I can help that. Shake him up and pop. There he goes. Wasn't that cool? Have fun with your chemical reactions. This is Mama P saying go do some science.